Hello and welcome to Budget with Business Standard. I'm Nivedita Mukherjee. As we move closer to the D-Day, the show has picked up pace to focus on topics of immediate interest. Today's lineup is a medley of sorts, from startups and trade to some hard finance stuff. Startups have been the flavor of the season, whether it's the growing unicorn club or the long list of IPOs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi added to the narrative by describing startups as backbone of the country right ahead of the budget. This report takes the startup story forward in relation to the budget.
India is now the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, with more than 61,000 government-recognized startups. The country is also home to 83 unicorns with a total valuation of $277.77 billion. However, it hasn't been smooth sailing for all startups in the country. With the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, many startups have not been able to avail of the benefits by registering under the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, which is the nodal department of startups. The government, therefore, may extend an income tax holiday to those startups whose benefits are set to expire this year. The Finance Minister had last year extended the eligibility for claiming a tax holiday by one more year until March 31st, 2022 to incentivize funding of startups.
The tax holiday that has been announced by DIPP for all upcoming startups and the recognition that they get from DIPP. The income tax holiday is typically for 3 years. And, all of us know that some of the founders of upcoming startups require a little more than 3 years to get their products right or their service right, or even get their business revenues and income starts to come only after, say, 3 or 4 years. So effectively, when the income tax holiday gets triggered from the date of recognition, from the time they're actually able to benefit from the holiday, it doesn't seem to be serving a purpose right now. So it would be great if the government extends this to 5 years so that there is a bit of leeway in terms of the startups' entire cycle, right from ideation to revenue to profit, and thereby saving taxes on their startups' mission.
Also, simplifying the existing process to claim the benefits of tax exemption is something that startups are looking forward to. The budget can also extend the employee stock ownership plan tax treatment announced by the Finance Minister to more companies, including unregistered startups and MSMEs. At present, this applies only to DPIIT recognized startups.
On the ESOP taxation, while there was an easing of that happened a couple of years ago by allowing employees to postpone their incidence of taxes to up to 5 years, it still as a scenario could arise where people have to pay taxes. So then there's a fundamental need to tweak the regulations which allow the taxation of ESOPs from startups only at the time of an eventual exit. Could be at the time of listing or could be at the time of sale of those securities. This will benefit the employees of startups in a big way.
Between 2015 and 2021, the Indian startup ecosystem has seen a jump of 9 times in the number of investors and 7 times each in the number of incubators and total funding of startups. Since 2011, when India got its first unicorn in Bangalore-based edtech company InMobi, the journey of the country's startups has been rapid. The year 2021 was particularly important as it accounted for as many as 44 unicorns. The budget could also look into the industry's request to allow direct overseas listing of Indian startups, which they believe can be a big reform measure for the sector. According to the existing rules, Indian companies are not allowed to list on foreign exchanges directly if they are not listed on Indian bourses.
While domestic listing markets are doing very well, giving an option for startups to also have listing possibilities overseas is important. It is subject to challenges around a perception of India's image in the international community, security concerns, data, etc. The government could do well to clarify its long-term orientation to that, so that people know where we are headed.
As the report suggests, the budget could well deliver some goodies to the startup sector. Our guest today, Praveen Khandelwal, who represents thousands of traders across the country, believes startups need handholding for India's unicorn numbers to hit a new record. I spoke to Mr. Khandelwal earlier in the day and began by asking him about traders' expectations from the budget. This is what he had to say.
Well, the expectations which we have raised before the finance minister, I believe that those are of very normal in nature, which can be incorporated in any kind of budget, and particularly this time when the trading community is suffering from COVID. So therefore, whatever suggestions we have given, those are all practical and must be incorporated in the budget.
Mm-hmm. So, going back to some of the previous budgets, have you, got what you asked for in the previous budgets?
Well, we can differentiate between the circumstances, what we were having previously and what we are having currently. We have seen devastating 2 years where the business was highly disturbed and distorted.
Till now, have you got any feelers from the government that traders will be looked at?
Well, of course, there are some deliberations going on the proposals what we have sent to the government, and certainly I hope that most of them will be incorporated.
This is also an important budget because it's coming at a time when many state elections are due. So, do you think the political reasons will also come into play this budget?
Well, I don't think so, because if the person who knows Prime Minister Mr. Modi, his working style is entirely different, and at many times he has shown that he doesn't want to have a very making people happy at the cost of getting votes. So therefore, this budget may not have, because we have compulsions, economic compulsions, we have financial compulsions. And if we go for pleasing the people, then the entire economic structure of the country will be devastated and distorted to a great extent.
Again, I'll ask you, do you remember any favorite budget of yours where traders were really given a lot?
Well, this is a very tricky question. I am almost post-independence in 75 years. I'm sorry to say that no government at the center or the states have ever given priority to the traders. I think this could be the answer of your question.
Okay, but you have hope this year.
Well, because we are one of the important constituent of Indian economy.
So, if you have to make one demand, the topmost demand in your list, what would that be for this budget?
The one demand will be total review of GST taxation system.
Mm-hmm.
Because
but beyond GST, what would you ask for?
Restructuring of existing income tax.
Mm-hmm. And why that?
Because as I said earlier, 75 years have gone. We have tested the income tax system. since when the Income Tax Act was formulated, the situation was very different. The challenges were very different. We were doing all physical. Now we have moved from physical to digital. So therefore, there are many aspects which needs to be looked into Income Tax Act.
What are your thoughts before the budget? Should e-commerce companies be given something in the budget, or they should be left out completely?
Well, I would not say that they should not be given anything, but the first and foremost thing is that we need a holistic e-commerce policy, and we have to make a mechanism with having a regulatory authority at the system to ensure that laws and rules of the country should be complied with. And if these things are happen, then India is in a comfortable position to give much more to e-commerce companies what really they deserve. So therefore, I think this system should be made holistic, and I hope that the finance minister in our budget will certainly look into.
Right. So recently, the Prime Minister said that India is a good destination, one of the best destinations for foreign investments. So do you think this is time to allow foreign investment in multi-brand retail? What traders have been opposing?
Not at all. I don't subscribe to that view. I am of the considered opinion, and not only me, but the traders of India, that yes, we need foreign investment, but in infrastructure. In various other sectors. Why retail?
Right. So what are your thoughts on startups? So many startups have become unicorns in 2021. Many of them have started becoming unicorns this year itself. And there has been an IPO rush. So what are your thoughts there?
Those startups who have become unicorn, I think they were lucky. We all know that lakhs and lakhs of startups takes place in the country every year. But in the absence of any hand-holding, most of those startups die their own natural death. So what I feel, the startup system is certainly a boon for the country, but at the same time, we have to devise certain policies to make handholding of these startups. And if we are able to handhold, then certainly India is going to produce 1,000 unicorns per year. That is the capacity of our startups.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Khandelwal, for joining us in this show.
The key takeaway from the interview is that traders have hardly ever got what they have sought in budget through the years. But this year is different, as COVID-19 has left many traders without any income and livelihood. Next segment on the show is about something quite different, off-market borrowings. This report will give you a complete view on this subject.
Off-market borrowings or extra budgetary resources are below-the-line expenditures. These were not shown in the budget until 2019-20 except for railways. As such, the fiscal deficit of the union government was understated till then, and we did not know it. But now we know about these numbers. Let's take a look at the data. In the budget for 2019-20, EBRs were shown for the first time for years since 2016-17, but only partly. EBRs have two parts: fully serviced government bonds and loans from the National Small Savings Funds. The budget for 2019-20 showed only the former at 57,000 crore rupees for the year. This sum, lower than the 64,000 crore rupees incurred in the previous year, was spent on schemes like the Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, revitalizing infrastructure and systems in higher education, Swachh Bharat Yojana Rural. EBRs of 15,000 crore rupees were disclosed for 2017-18. A little over 9,000 crore rupees was spent during 2016-17. It was in 2020-21 that EBRs were shown in full by disclosing even the loans from NSSF. Meanwhile, the amount for fully serviced government bonds declined to 45,000 crore rupees in the revised estimates of 2019-20 from 57,000 crore rupees in the budget estimates. These were shown at 49,500 crore rupees for 2020-21 in the budget estimates. However, the higher portion was accounted for by loans from NSSF. Even in 2016-17, these stood at 70,000 crore rupees and increased subsequently. It was budgeted at a whopping 1.36 trillion rupees in 2020-21. Most of these loans are accounted for by the Food Corporation of India in these years. And in fact, loan to FCI accounted for all the borrowings from NSSF for 2020-21. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has brought further transparency in the fiscal deficit numbers by doing away with the loans from the NSSF to the FCI from the current financial year. The government also did not estimate any sum for its fully serviced bonds. However, it kept 30,000 crore rupees from NSSF loans for some committed advances by NABARD, HUDCO, etc., which could not be done away with abruptly. But this may not be resorted to, and EBRs may fall to zero or some negligible amount.
From hard financial numbers to interesting facts about finance ministers and budget. All the world's a stage, the famous line from As You Like It could aptly describe the different roles that many political personalities have played from time to time. Let's check out these role changes from the prism of the union budget.
It is quite something that Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi had all held additional charge of finance minister when they were prime ministers. Nehru presented the budget in 1958-59 after T.T. Krishnamachari was persuaded to quit in the wake of independent India's first big financial scam, in which the newly nationalized Life Insurance Corporation of India had controversially invested in businessman Hari Das Mundra's firms. Nehru held the finance portfolio for just about a month before handing it over to Morarji Desai. 10 years later, Indira Gandhi took additional charge of the finance ministry after Morarji Desai was made to quit just before bank nationalization in July 1969. She presented the budget in 1970 and held the finance portfolio for a year. Rajiv Gandhi took additional charge in January 1987 after shifting his finance minister Vishwanath Pratap Singh just about 5 weeks before he was due to present the budget. Instead of Singh, Rajiv Gandhi presented the budget for 1987-88 and kept the portfolio with himself for about 6 months. In the case of Morarji Desai, Charan Singh, VP Singh and Manmohan Singh, it was another kind of role change. They presented the budget before taking the top job. Desai presented as many as 10 budgets, including 2 interim ones during 2 stints as FM for 1959-64 and 1967-69. He was the PM from 1977 to 79. VP Singh presented 2 budgets for 1985-86 and 1986-87 and went on to become the Prime Minister in 1989. Charan Singh presented the budget while he was the Deputy Prime Minister in 1979-80, just before he became the PM for a few months. Manmohan Singh, who was the Finance Minister in the Narasimha Rao government from 1991-96, became Prime Minister in 2004. That's not all. There were at least 2 Finance Ministers who went on to become Presidents. They were Pranab Mukherjee and R. Venkatraman.
With that report on changing roles, we come to the end of the 8th episode of Budget with Business Standard. There's much more left. Bye for now. See you on Tuesday.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views, and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and LinkedIn.